Welcome to Longhorn Weekly with Coach Sark, presented by the Texas Lottery.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Longhorn Weekly with Coach Sark, coming your way from Pluckers, the West Campus location here in Austin, and presented by the Texas Lottery. It's a 4-1 Longhorn team, 2-0 in Big 12 conference play, coming off the win in Fort Worth over the TCU Horned Frogs and getting ready for this year. Coming off the win, you feel like you're now seeing some gathering momentum from your guys with 3 consecutive victories.
Yeah, I think so. I always say, losing is contagious, but so is winning. And I think the winning attitude, that mentality, the approach to the ball game, the mentality within the game, even when adversity strikes, I think we're taking on a real winner's mentality. And I think that has been contagious now over 3 weeks. And I think we're benefiting from it, even when some of the adversity strikes within game.
Well, it had adversity right out of the gate with the kickoff return and you said it was impressive to you that your guys didn't flinch right at the start.
No, we really didn't. What was unfortunate was I think it was the second play of the game. We give up the touchdown run, and we missed 2 tackles really right at the point of attack with 2 of our better players, with Anthony Cook and Luke Brockemeyer. And at that point, it was like, okay, maybe we're a little excited for the moment that we give up the kick return. Our special teams had been great all year. 2 of our better players, 2 of our better tacklers missed the tackle. We need to just kind of settle down, all right, weather this storm, and then get back to work. And I thought that our team did a nice job of doing that.
Well, it was certainly a great deal discussed. Bijan Robinson, the game he gave you, and the 35 carries. I thought you made it pretty plain and clear going all the way back into March, and even at Big 12 Media Day when you talked about when people were asking about ideal number of carries for more touches out of the backfield, and you said in the neighborhood of 20 or something like that. But I remember distinctly you saying there's going to be games where we're going to have to lean on him more.
Without a doubt. And I'm glad I did say that so that everyone didn't think I was, just doing it, on the spur of the moment. Hey, he's a special player. He's a special talent. He's a special person. And there's going to be days when maybe not all of your team is clicking the way you want. But when you've got a guy or a couple guys that you can lean on to get yourself out of there with a win, that's what was needed Saturday. And, we got the ball there with the last drive of the game with, 4.5 or so minutes to go. We knew we were going to run it. They knew we were going to run it. And at that point, it was let's make sure we're handing it to our best guy to give us a chance to go win this thing. And obviously, we were able to do it. I think it was 5 consecutive runs there to close it out. To ultimately, get on the bus back to Austin with a win.
The other thing that I thought was interesting is the 3rd down and 6 run. A lot of folks pointed to because it enabled you to run out the clock. But I asked you in the post game, it's not often you'll see the head coach, the play caller, tell his quarterback, or the play call comes in to hand it to your running back on 3rd down and 9. And to do that, and for him to get the 9, he needed 9. He got about 9.5, 10, whatever, to do the job there. I think also says an awful lot about Bijan and about the development and the push that you got from your offensive line.
No question. We weren't great early on up front, and it took a moment, I think, for us to kind of get into the groove of the game. And then obviously we lost Denzel Okafor, and we moved Kerstetter to guard, and then Carrick had to go in at right tackle. A little bit of a transition there, but I thought as the game went on, we started to block them better and better and better in the run game up front. And, quite frankly, I'd almost made up my mind if we got close enough on the 3rd down run, we were going to go for it on 4th down. So I didn't feel as bad, and I think Casey kind of realized kind of what we might be doing right there. And then Bijan I'm just going to go get the whole thing for you so we don't have to worry about going for it on 4th down.
Taking care of it there. We've talked at length about Derek Kerstetter. He's one of my favorite guys to discuss, and his journey and everything that he's been through. And we talked with him afterwards on the game, and I asked him, I said, is it about as 180 is too strong a term, but a difference in polarity change along the offensive front going from right tackle to left guard? And he said, yeah, but he said, there's basic tenets in all of it. And, of course, he's played all 5 positions, had played all 5 positions. So out of all of your guys, that's the one guy I'm sure you felt you could plug him wherever you needed to have him play and have him produce.
Oh, without a doubt. Derek has got a wealth of experience. He's such a mature guy, great leader, smart, tough. And so I don't think he even blinked. I mean, it was almost like, okay, yeah, I'm going to go play left guard now. I mean, then I'm going to do that really good too. So it worked out really well for us. It gave us a chance to get Carrick in. We're going to miss Denzel immensely, but we're fortunate to have a guy like Derek with the experience and versatility that he provides for that unit up front.
Yeah, for folks who don't understand it, what's the biggest difference, say, between if you're playing right tackle and you're playing left guard? The things, the nuances of that spot that you've got to know.
Well, I think one, when you're playing right tackle, you're on an edge, right? You're almost like on that cliff, if you can give me that one, and the space, right? There's a lot more space. There's moving parts. You're blocking smaller people at times. You're blocking faster people at times. But things sometimes you have a little more time to allow them to develop before they get to you. When you move to left guard, it's right here, right now, baby. I mean, it's right in your face. I mean, you got bigger people. They're moving. There's linebackers blitzing A-gaps. There's things happening. So you got to trigger quicker, and things happen quicker. And you have to be more stout because you're blocking bigger humans.
So does that also take into account a redshirt freshman, talented one in Andre Carrick, but a guy who's still in the learning process and getting some on-the-job training, some learning as well, that it works for him out at right tackle? I mean, more a natural position for him anyway, but to be able to go out to right tackle and still be able to hold his own.
I think so. I think it's helpful, and I think it's helpful to have an experienced guy like Junior next to him. Who can communicate with them really well, maybe calm some of the nerves if there's some issues that are happening. So, there's value in that when a young player goes in, having a veteran next to him. But Andre's a talented young guy. The key for him, like a lot of young players, is continuing to mature, right? Your maturity level in your preparation, your maturity level in the drill work, your maturity level in your approach to your play and respecting your opponent, all of that. A lot of young players, that's part of the process, and he's in the middle of it. But, hey, we're fired up to have him to go for us this weekend.
When it comes to position groups, is the cohesion that's needed more so with your offensive line than perhaps any other position group on a football team?
I mean, I would say that is one, and probably your secondary maybe is two, just because of the amount of communication that has to happen with those two groups. I mean, when you think about everything we do, the communication has to happen and starts with those guys up front, because when one guy's wrong, the play looks terrible, right? And everyone goes, why did he call that? That was a terrible play call. Well, maybe we didn't block it or do something the right way. Same thing in the secondary. When you communicate really well in the secondary, it's very smooth, it's very clean. When somebody miscommunicates and you give up a 70-yard touchdown, that's a bad call again, right? Or why'd they blow that coverage? So those two positions are probably, outside of the quarterback, two of the most scrutinized positions, but also the cohesiveness and the communication that's needed at those two groups is critical.
Is like one of the worst sights for a coach to see is to see a corner and a safety look at each other, go, I thought you had
I've seen it, and the worst is when they both blitz off the same time. Like, who's covering the guy running down the sidelines? So, again, that's usually when the communication fails.
Let's talk about your wide receivers. I know you said between Casey and between them, they didn't have quite the game. You're still, I know, hunting the deep ball. You're wanting your guys to get into that rhythm to be able to get the deep ball going.
Yeah, it's a huge factor for us. We took a shot the first play of the game, and it was a fingertip off of Josh Moore's hand. Took another shot to Xavier Worthy in the end zone, right off of his fingertips. We took a shot to Xavier Worthy on third down that gets intercepted. Some might argue it might have been a hold, but hey, that wasn't for us. And then we hit the one to Jordan Whittington for a big play. So ultimately, we're every time we throw it doesn't mean those were the only times we called it, right? We call quite a few of these throughout a game. We need to keep safeties honest so that they don't get too nosy to come and stop the run. And if they do, we have to take our shots to try to make them pay. And so that aspect of it's not really going to go away. I was reading a quote from Jerry West the other day about, he's a 50% lifetime shooter. And one game he was 0 for 10 in the first half, and somebody asked him, "What do you think?" He said, "Look out."
Could you imagine if they'd had the three-point shot when he was playing
Right,
back then, the
right.
pure shooter that he was? Okay, so here's the offensive yin of the yang question. When someone asks you what's an ideal number of touches for Bijan or for your running game, the passing game side of that would be, is there an ideal number of deep shots you like to take in a game?
Well, again, I think it varies by, the game, right? Every game takes on a life of its own. I worked for Al Davis. It was 2004. I was a quarterback coach for the Oakland Raiders. I was 29. And, I always like to, when I get around people like an Al Davis or a Nick Saban or a Pete Carroll or those types of people, I like to I had a chance to have breakfast with Bill Walsh before he had passed. And I like to pick their brain. And Al Davis, always said, you should take 2 shots every quarter, which would be 8 a game. That doesn't mean you throw 8 of them, but you should at least call 2 a quarter that stresses the defense vertically. And that was the whole Raider kind of motto back in the day, right? The whole speed factor and all that. So I've never really lost sight of that. It probably adds up to something like that. But, if you don't throw it, people may not notice that it was a potential shot play. The coverage may dictate that you don't throw it.
And Al Davis was one of the rare exceptions where when folks say, well, what's an owner doing saying those kinds of things? He's an owner. What does he know? This guy was an AFL Coach of the Year in 1963,
right.
Coach of the Raiders. So he worked at about every level of football during his lifetime.
Yeah, for sure. And what was interesting, I had talked to him potentially about being the head coach there. And the first part of the discussion, he was showing me the old pictures of when he was an assistant coach at USC. And at that time, I was at USC, and it was a lot of reminiscing. So he was a terrific football mind, especially early on in his career of the things that he was doing.
All right, we've got a lot of things to get to here on the program tonight. Hey, also want to remind you that Longhorn fans, luck happens with the Texas Lottery. Congratulations to Jordan Shelton, who won Longhorn prizes and Texas Lottery scratch tickets. Luck could happen to you too. Play Texas Lottery today. This is Longhorn Weekly with Coach Sark here from Pluckers, the West Campus location in Austin, presented by the Texas Lottery. We'll continue here on the Longhorn Network and the Longhorn Radio Network from Learfield.
Longhorn Weekly with Coach Sark is presented by the Texas Lottery, celebrating 30 years of winning. Play today. And in part by Pluckers Wing Bar. If you don't like our wings, we'll give you the bird.
Back here on Longhorn Weekly from Pluckers, the West Campus location here in Austin, and presented by the Texas Lottery. We're talking a little bit about the secondary, and we'll hear a highlight of Anthony Cook's big play a little later on. But I want to ask you about your linebackers. You mentioned Luke Brockermeyer being involved in an early missed tackle by Zach Evans, but of course he came back and thought he played well after that, and DeMarvion Overshown was all over the field.
Yeah, they both were. That was the cool thing that I was saying. I think Anthony Cook had a tremendous game as well Saturday. But that was the idea of that we could overcome. We had a couple miscues early in the game, but both Luke and Anthony ended up coming back, having really good games, and Demo was fantastic again. I wish he and Luke weren't fighting over the interception right there. That'd have been nice to get another turnover, but they were both in good position to make a play on the ball.
I know this is going to shock you. They had different viewpoints and perspectives on how that went down. Demo said that, oh, no, I had it, and he kind of took it away from him. Luke said, no, I think it was in my hands first. What did the tape show you?
It was borderline simultaneous. I almost felt like somebody tried to tell him, I got it, and the other one said, no, mine. Like in the middle, imagine that happening, but it's hard to fault those guys. You get in the heat of the moment, you're getting twisted and turned, and there's this football that's shaped in a weird way, and you're just trying to hold on to it. But both played well, both tackled well. That Demo had a couple really nice tackles in the open field that could have been big plays, and he was able to get the runner on the ground.
With regard to your secondary, I know you're glad to get Josh Thompson back. That said, were you also pleased with what you saw from Darian Dunn?
I thought it was great for Darian Dunn. He had been playing better and better and better, kind of week after week after week. And we were already kind of in the mindset of we were going to rotate him in more than we had. And then obviously we had, didn't have Josh last week, so he stepped up as a starter. So I think for us, it puts us in a position we feel really comfortable with that 3-man rotation. And if Darian goes in, there's not this drop off. This guy he's played a lot of football. He's a grad transfer. He was a great player at McNeese. He's come here. He's kind of made that transition. So for us, we've got 3 really experienced corners in Darian, Josh, and then obviously Deshaun Jameson.
If you remove freshmen from the equation, if you remove true freshmen, even redshirt freshmen, and you talk about newcomers, when you evaluate, say, a JUCO transfer or a grad transfer, who has the more difficult time adjusting to the speed of the game, the weight, your system, or any college football system, as you've seen over the years? Who has the more challenging experience?
Oh, I think the JUCO for sure. And I was a JUCO player myself, and I started coaching at the junior college level. I just think it's the regiment, right? When you get to a University of Texas or any other Power 5 type school, it's the regiment, from the wake up in the morning to the workouts to checking in, eating every meal, to the study table, to the meetings, to the practice, to whatever the discipline is of your program. And that's not to knock junior college, but
they just don't.
They just don't have the resources to do all of that, to implement all of that. So I think that transition is quite a bit, not to mention from an education standpoint. You get on our campus and you're going to school here to earn this degree. These are real classes you're sitting in. So I think that transition, as opposed to a guy who's already graduated from college, been at the Division I level or 1AA level, however you want to look at it, then comes here, I think is a little more easier acclimated to what we have going on.
Would you say also that at the JUCO level, the guys are just, they're, first of all, they're used to a different brand of football as well. The hitting's different, the schemes are different and things like that, and that also kind of widens the gap in trying to fast track the adjustment to the D1 game?
Yeah, without a doubt. You don't get, every week the guy you're going against is probably as good as you or better, right? In junior college, that may happen, maybe 1 to 3 or 4 times a year, maybe. But every day in practice, the guy you're going against here is as good or better than you. And the guy behind you might be as good or better than you. And so it's that kind of that mental preparation to put yourself in that position day in and day out, and that become your routine, as opposed to most of the junior college guys you get. They're arguably the top 1, 2, or 3 best players on their team or in their conference. So, much different perspective for them on how the daily grind goes, how the weeks go, the months, and then the entire year.
Did you find yourself in your assistant days, and even as a head coach, being a little bit of a father confessor to the JUCO kid because you went down that road and kind of understand what they're going through?
Yeah, I do. I still do, because I do think it is different. I think that it's just, it's not what it was. It's not what you think it is, and where you're at isn't good enough. You have to take your game to another level. You have to take your maturity to another level because you're now on another level. And so what you were at junior college isn't good enough. It was good enough to get you here, but it's not going to be good enough to continue to play. You've got to put in the work on and off the field to become the player that I know they all want to be.
I imagine you have similar conversations with guys who were all-state, 4-star, 5-star, whatever recruits that come in, and it's some sticker shock, isn't it, about what all of a sudden they're having to adjust to in terms of what's expected of them, what they have to expect of themselves, and maybe not understanding how to take their game to the next level.
Well, I think there's a couple things that are difficult about that. The majority of the guys that you sign, they're the big man on campus, right? They are the player of the year. They're all these things, and whether we like it or not, I think subconsciously people, their teammates, their peers, whatever, treat them a little differently. Well, when you get here, you're right. You just get in line with the rest of everybody else, and then you earn what you get. So we talk about the discipline aspect of it, but from an athletic standpoint, sometimes we like to let it play out. We like them to realize, and it doesn't take very long, like, well, that guy's as fast as me, or that guy's as strong as me, or, that guy knows the playbook better than me, and so the sooner they can recognize it and realize it, and sometimes we have to help them along that road to do it, the much better experience they're going to have of enjoying the work and enjoying the process of getting better. Because the guys that struggle, think who they were in high school was good enough, and they can't get that out of their head. It's like they come to work and they come and work out and they train and they practice, and then they go home and they turn on their high school highlights to try to remember what they were. Those days are over. Here we are now. How are we getting better now? And I think the sooner they can get there, the better off they are.
Do you find yourself or your coaching staff, their position coaches tell them, put the high school tape away, look only at where you are, what you've got to get to, and the opponents and things, and don't worry about the high school stuff, because you're going to be better than that guy, but you've got to get better than that
That's exactly right. You got to let it go, and you got to keep moving forward. Look at these guys right here. We got a couple of them here.
Look at these. You do have part of your group I'll tell you what. We'll take a break, and then we'll get you to do a little recognition for these guys coming up. We'll continue here with Longhorn Weekly with Coach Sark here from Pucker, the West Campus location here in Austin, and we'll continue in a moment. Set. Casey Thompson will now shift Bijan Robinson back into the backfield, back in the pistol directly behind Thompson. Also shifting in motion, the tight end, Jared Wiley, first down. Robinson shook off 2 tackles, turns it outside. Say goodnight to this one. Bijan Robinson takes it in, a 27-yard touchdown run. Back here on Longhorn Weekly with Coach Sark from Pucker's, the West Campus location. We'll get back to Bijan in a moment, but you just recognize that there's 4 guys who came over from here. You can kind of introduce them and point them out there to the crowd here.
Yeah, these are a couple of our big old defensive linemen here. We got Tavondre Sweat. We got Alfred Collins here, Byron Murphy, and Myron Warren over here. So I don't know how many wings these guys are about to eat tonight. This is. I don't know what's about to happen here.
Here's my question, T. Sweat. But my question is, who's the funnier guy, you or Snacks? You or Keandre? It's you. Okay. Because I'm always told it's a comedy duo that one cannot exist without the other. Is that how that works? They're a duo. Okay. All right. 2 of the funniest guys that sit around. They keep a locker room loose, don't they?
I think the defensive line room in general keeps the locker room loose. I mean, these guys, they kind of hide in the they're the biggest guys on the team, but yet they got jokes, as they say. They got jokes. They're funny guys.
Well, and you brought them up. So in addition to the guys that we talked about, and Keandre, and of course Jacoby had a big game last week. We're seeing Baron Sorrell step up for you. Vernon Broughton is continuing to develop. You mentioned Byron. I mean, these are guys. Alfred, you're mentioning guys that are really on the development and on the rise.
No, the cool thing about this room, I really feel like all of them continue to get better, and they're kind of a microcosm of the team, as we talked about earlier, where I'm seeing this incremental growth on our football team and guys getting better and better and better. This room is exactly that, right? And you look at whether you're the frontline starter or the true freshman or the developmental player, I can speak on behalf of all 4 of the guys that are here tonight. Every one of them has improved their game. They've improved from a technical standpoint. They've improved from an understanding of the defense, and they've improved from an effort. I mean, their energy, their effort, the way they're playing, and that's a great sign that we're continuing to coach. Nobody's just settled in, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be, I'm good enough. Everybody's working and striving to improve their game.
And these guys are an example of the larger group even getting some of the younger guys who are still trying to figure it out and helping shorten the learning curve for them, isn't he?
With no question, and that's the beauty of it. And I think part of it is, even with us, with our scout team players, we don't stop coaching them. That's not how it works with us. And you've heard me say this a lot. We are a developmental program. And I think that's the way we go through training camp with our 2-spot drills. That's how we train now. I mean, our scout team players still go to their position meetings. They still learn. They're still getting taught. They still do individual with their coach. Now, when we go to scout team, we coach them hard too, because that's their chance to really go against the best players and then learn how to fight and scratch and claw and battle and compete. So I think through it all, that the development of the team, but this group, in particular, you're seeing growth. I mean, a couple of these guys sitting here, 3 of them, they're playing the best football they've played since I've been here last weekend, and that's a really cool thing.
One other thing I wanted to go back to, the Bijan touchdown run there. You were talking about how when everybody in the stadium knows that he's going to get the ball, teams on both sides, we'll go to the fourth down play at the goal line. I think everybody knows. At that point, it's not bothering you whether everybody knows, because everybody knows what they're going to know anyway. It's just, can we execute it? And you're sending a message to your group, aren't you?
Without a doubt. And, I learned this a long time ago. It's easy to run the ball when people don't know you're going to run the ball. The really good running football teams can run the football when everybody knows you're going to run the ball, and the opponent knows you're going to run the ball. And I think we're getting there. I really do. I know we didn't make it on the 4th and 1 on the goal line, but we sure as heck were able to close the game out. That last drive of the game when everybody watching on TV in the stadium on both sidelines knew we were going to run the football, and we were able to do it effectively.
All right, we have much more coming here from Pluckers, the West Campus location here in Austin. It's Longhorn Weekly with Coach Sark, presented by the Texas Lottery. We'll continue on the Longhorn Network and the Longhorn Radio Network from Learfield.
Hey, Coach, what are some of the things you're excited to see play out in the 2021 season?
We thank the team at Academy Sports and Outdoors for their question. I realize that's a bit of a broad-based question, but with regard to your team and college football overall, what are some of the things you're excited to see play out?
Well, I think for us is continuing to play good football and to continue to improve. I think that's first and foremost. And, ideally, as we're into late November, we're in the midst of a Big 12 championship hunt. With an opportunity to go play in that game. I think we'd all love to get back to Dallas and be a part of that ball game. And you got one game to go win a conference championship. So, big picture thinking, that's where my focus is. I'm not too concerned about anybody else, quite frankly. I'm more concerned about what we're doing. So
yeah, and really in terms of the whole of the season, it's just good to see full stadiums back and see fans back at the game and see it have a lot more normal look to it, right?
I love it. And I'll tell you what, I love the energy in the stadium. Obviously, I love going to DKR and being there, and the crowd. I think our crowd has been amazing all year. The students have been fantastic. But even a little bit going on the road, even when you go on the road and you're going to a hostile environment, that energy, the vibe in the stadium, that's your competitive juices like that kind of stuff. So I love that part of it. But you know me well enough now that I love all of that about college football. I eat that kind of stuff up. I love riding it on the bus, coming to the game and seeing everybody out tailgating. Even we got 11 a.m. kicks. I keep looking at my watch. That's an early start, but hey, they're going to be revved up for the game. So I love all of that about college football, and the fans are no different. So to me, yeah, I've already kind of embraced that side of it, and whether it's the bowl games and all those things that are going to come down the road, but we've got a spotlight on this Big 12 championship game.
I'm sure you've already been told this many times. You're going to love this bus ride into Fair Park. It's something special. I can tell you that. Thanks to Academy Sports and Outdoors, the team. Remember, fans, Academy Sports and Outdoors is the official sporting goods and outdoor retailer of the Big 12 Conference. I want to get to a couple of questions here. Here's a question. It says, people often cheer for you when you enter a room. I mean, we hear Gene. I think Gene would cheer wildly for you in a public library. But the point is, how do you stay grounded and stay focused on what you have to do and not let it inflate you a bit?
Honestly, sometimes the cheers are almost a little embarrassing. Because when I walk into a room, I don't think I'm the head football coach at the University of Texas. I just think, hey, I'm Steve. It's great to meet you, and I just try to remain as humble as I can be and be as hardworking as I can be and serve as best as I can serve, and appreciative of the opportunities that I have. And so I just really try not to lose sight of that. But in the end, it's like anything. Obviously, it's flattering that people like you. But the reason I don't get too high about it is because I've been booed before too when I've walked in a room, and that doesn't feel very good. So you just kind of don't get too high, don't get too low kind of mantra.
I think the first coach I ever heard used that mantra to talk about not getting too out too low. It was Tom Landry, or the Cowboys coach, and he talked about that. He said you just want to kind of ride in between, and it kind of helps keep you focused on the moment in the task at hand, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I think it keeps you balanced. I think that it, especially for me, as a head coach and a play caller, I try not to make emotional decisions. And I think when you get too high or you get too low, all of a sudden now you start making emotional play calls. You start making emotional in-game decisions. And I try to make my calls as rational as I can make them. And the only way I can do it is by staying balanced. And in a weird way, it's kind of like life, right? When we get too emotional, we probably make emotional decisions that don't turn out very good. They can, but a lot of times they don't. And when we're pretty well kind of 2 feet on the ground, pretty balanced, we make better decisions in life. And that's kind of how a game goes. And, whether or not they work or not, that's not really the point. It's just, was it a rational decision? Was I calm in my approach to why I did it? Not because this just happened, so I'm going to go do this. And I think that's when you get in trouble.
Maybe tell me if this is a precursor to something else I've heard you say going into the games. When you say, we want to play with emotion, but we don't want to play emotional.
Right.
And so if you're emotionally play calling games, if you're being emotional, that can affect whether your team plays with emotion or plays emotional, doesn't it?
Oh, without a doubt. And I think the players feel it. I've said this all, quite some time now. I ultimately think teams take on the personality of the head coach, whatever that head coach's personality is. And we've seen emotional head coaches. I mean, you've seen them for many decades. I've seen them too. And ultimately, their teams play an emotional brand of football. There's late hits after whistles, there's fighting, there's all this kind of stuff that goes on. And we've also seen the coaches that seem pretty level-headed. Not that they're not fiery, but pretty level-headed. Their teams tend to play pretty level-headed and pretty focused in what their approach is. And this week's really going to be no different, right? There's going to be a lot of emotion in this game. And, I challenged our team on, we need that emotion. Don't get me wrong. Football is a game full of emotion, but not getting emotional, because I think when you're emotional, that starts to sap your energy, your mental energy. It starts to take away from it that ultimately you're going to need in the fourth quarter of tight games. And so we need to be at our best in the fourth quarter mentally as well as physically. We want to feel that emotion. Let's not get emotional. Let's stay the course and focused on the task at hand, and then let's get emotional after the game, right, when we can enjoy it.
All right, we have plenty more coming up here from Pluckers, the West Campus location here in Austin, when Longhorn Weekly with Coach Sark, presented by the Texas Lottery, continues in a moment.
Duggan out of the pistol, the snap, turns, and off play action, looks to throw, hit, ball loose, it's on the turf. Anthony Cook hit him, knocked the ball loose, and then picked it up. Oh, Anthony Cook! And it goes back over to Texas on the turnover.
Back here on Longhorn Weekly with Coach Sark, presented by the Texas Lottery from Pluckers, the West Campus location here in Austin. We talked about Anthony Cook's play earlier. It's not always that commonplace for a guy to deliver a hit, coming on a blitz, that hard, knock the ball loose, and then recover it as well. I mean, it's kind of tough with the momentum that's carrying him into it to dislodge the ball and then be able to get to the ball itself.
I really wanted him to score. We only got a field goal out of it, which was one of the things we needed to work on coming out of the game. The 3 turnovers and only getting 9 points. But it is a tough task because, one, when you're free, you just want to still make sure you make contact, because at any moment the quarterback could spin out. 2, you want to be able to deliver a good blow that hopefully could knock the ball loose. And then 3, having the awareness to get up and then scoop it on your feet, not just jump on it and fall on it, but scoop it and try to extend the play, was a really fantastic play by him.
Is it a fine line between who you want to attempt to scoop and score and who you'd rather just have fall on the ball? Is it as simple as saying linemen versus DBs?
I'm looking at these 4 guys over here. I'm trying to figure out which one of these guys could scoop up a fumble and score.
Or are they better off just falling on it?
One of them might be better off falling on it, but no, no. Quite frankly, I think it's an awareness thing. We practice it. The ball is the number one thing in our program. We practice that. I think there's a feel to it, but just understanding the situation, how critical it is just to get the possession. But we see it on block kicks, and you get that good bounce. I think having that ability to scoop and score sometimes is easier than jumping on a ball. It's actually a hard thing to do, is to jump on top of a football, because it starts shooting out in different directions and things. So whether you hook slide and cradle it, whether you scoop it, those are actually easier ways to pick up a ball than it is to jump on top of it.
We were talking about emotion earlier, and Gene with a question wants to know what type of encouragement or extra encouragement do you use to prepare the team for high-profile games? And I know you said the game has to be the game, the process has to be the process.
Yeah, that's something I touched on. That I really valued from Coach Saban. Quite frankly, he did a great job of keeping it the same. The routine was the routine. The process was the process. And you wouldn't know who the opponent was on Saturday because it all looked the same, because it was the same. And that's something that we're striving for and continue to work at. And I think our players have appreciated, because when we prepare, it's not about the opponent. It's about us. And if you get caught up in the distractions, right, that's when you're now distracted away from what is the task that you need to be doing for the day to get yourself ready to go. And I think our guys are really getting it. I mean, I'll tell you what, yesterday, I know I've talked about weeks of practice.
Yeah.
Yesterday, in my opinion, was our best practice we've had all year.
Best single day of practice.
Best single day of practice we've had all year. And now, it wasn't perfect, but the intent, the physicality, the energy, that was the best one of the year. Today, not quite as good, but that was okay. I mean, we set the bar. We reset the bar yesterday. Today was still good, but for that practice to be that way, to me, is just another good sign of the progression of the program and the team and where we're headed.
And that always isn't the case when you got heavy load days of Tuesday and Wednesday, getting them to deliver that kind of energy and emotion on the practice field, is it?
I say it all the time. Tuesdays and Wednesdays in our program are hard hat and lunch pail days. They are what they are. We work. It's tough. It's physical. We Monday's relatively light. Tuesday, Wednesday are grinder days. Thursday's a cleanup. Friday's a walkthrough, and we go play. So the Tuesday and Wednesday are so critical to our performance on Saturday. I mean, we invest a lot in it as a staff. I know the players do too. They're tired by the end of it, believe me. But that's what makes us, that's what shapes us for Saturday.
All right, coming up, we're going to take a look at the opponent, the Oklahoma Sooners, coming up, and we'll do that when we continue with Longhorn Weekly from here, Pluckers, the West Campus location, here in Austin with Coach Sark, seen here on the Longhorn Network and heard across the state of Texas on the Longhorn Radio Network from Learfield. Back here on Longhorn Weekly with Coach Sark from Pluckers, the West Campus location here in Austin. Well, so it is Red River Showdown week and getting ready for the Oklahoma Sooners. First and foremost, before we get to talking about some of the matchups and things like that, you've had a lot of different people tell you about it. You've seen a lot of tape on it. And you made a point to mention in the news conference on Monday how much you're looking forward to being a participant, so to speak, from the coaching perspective in this game.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think about the extensive amount of great coaches and great players that have a chance to be part of this game. I always try to appreciate the opportunities I get, and I've been part of some pretty good rivalries. I think this one might be the best of them all and probably will be after Saturday. But the reality of it is, man, you think about 117th time these two schools have met in the capacity in which they've met and what so many of those games have meant, not only for the landscape of our own seasons, but the landscape of college football. You just appreciate the opportunity. And, these are why we work and why we do all the hard work in the morning and the studying the tape and staying up late and the players working and grinding away for these games. And you want to make sure you put your best foot forward. And to do that, I think you have to appreciate the moment. because you don't want it to go by and feel like, oh man, I didn't even know I was so focused. We need to be focused, but you got to take it in a little bit. You got to take it in, and I think we'll be in that space as a football team.
I know you've been real impressed with what you've seen from what Lincoln Riley does with his offense.
I really have. I mean, Lincoln's done it for quite some time now, and one thing I admire about him is he definitely has a system, right? I mean, he has a system of what he's trying to do, but he tweaks that system year in and year out to the personnel that he has. Whether it's the style of the quarterback, whether it's who's the runner behind the quarterback or next to the quarterback and his style, whether it's the go-to receiver or the tight end or whatever that is, he's done a nice job of tweaking the system to the player, not forcing the players to play in that exact system. And that's something you've heard me well enough say that I think we try to do. And so when you see somebody else do it, you appreciate it, because I think that's the approach that they have.
And he gets a lot out of Spencer Rattler.
He really does. Spencer's a very efficient quarterback. I mean, 76 completion percentage, 76%, and just his ability to throw the ball. He can throw it all over the field. He's athletic. He can extend plays with his legs. He can, they call design quarterback runs, but he's definitely the guy that's leading the charge for him amongst a really skilled athletic group on the perimeter with the wideouts, the runners, the tight ends.
Yeah, and I guess with the running backs, they're similar in the way they're designed and what they are asked to do, aren't they, Eric Gray and Kennedy Brooks?
They really are. They have about the same number of carries on the year. They average about the same yards per carry. They're built about the same. So they're fortunate in that way that it's not such a drastic change of the style of play call that they have, but they're both very good players.
On the defensive side, there was so much talk about that defensive front this season. How about your thoughts on what you see out of them?
Well, it's a real defensive front. I mean, it's living up to the hype. This is a talented group, very active. A couple good senior veterans on that front, but the thing about it is they play their backups as much as they play the starters, so it's a very deep group as well. But it's an active front. They move quite a bit. They penetrate. They do a nice job.
Would it be safe to say that what you get out of your offensive line, that you like to quite often say this thing, any game can be won or lost in the trenches, quite often is won or lost in the trenches, with what your offensive line has had to do to grow and get better, matching up against this defensive front is certainly going to be one of the crucial elements that turns this game?
Oh, I think it's going to be one of the key components. If we're talking about what it takes to win this game, I think controlling the line of scrimmage on offense is going to be critical, as well as dealing with the movement, the stunts in the run game and the pass game.
All right, and then there was one other area we always talk about: special teams, and I know somebody asked you before, What did you really like? In fact, it was Will Matthews asked you on our postgame show, what did you really like that maybe folks weren't talking about in the TCU game? And you said Cameron Dicker's game. And obviously special teams always seems to play a big part in this game.
Yeah, we've invested a lot in special teams, from our coaches to our preparation to the practice time to the meeting time. And we've said all along, our special teams is going to win us a couple games this year. And, we're blocking punts, we're blocking kicks, we're returning balls. I thought the other night, outside of that first kickoff return, they were lights out. 2 big kickoff returns of our own. They forced the muff punt. We recover that. Dicker's 4 for 4 on field goal. Then after that first kickoff, kicks the rest of them either into the end zone or out of the end zone. So that's a huge component of our game that we value a lot and we think is going to be big for us Saturday.
This will be the last time this season we tell you about this, but we want you to come support the Longhorns on Texas OU weekend, starting this Friday, the 8th, at the 33rd annual Get Teed Off at OU Golf Tournament, to the Bash Before the Clash, and the tailgate at the fairgrounds. Round up your Longhorn friends, and don't miss out. Go to DallasTexasAxis.org for more information. We'll be back to wrap up this week's edition of Longhorn Weekly with Coach Sark when we continue in a moment.
Longhorn Weekly with Coach Sark is presented by the Texas Lottery, celebrating 30 years of winning. Play today. And in part by Plucker's Wing Bar. If you don't like our wings, we'll give you the bird.
first down off play action. Over the middle. Pass caught. There goes Whittington. Say goodnight to it. Jordan Whittington. Touchdown, Texas. Slant over the middle. And Jordan Whittington finished the job. A 32-yard touchdown.
Well, how big are those two plays? Bijan Robinson, the first down, and then Casey Thompson, the dart to Whittington for the score.
Big plays indeed as we head down the home stretch of this edition of Longhorn Weekly. This game has been known for big plays, and you've got guys that are certainly capable of delivering those kinds of moments, like Jordan's 37-yard catch as well as that 32-yard touchdown.
Yeah, Jordan has been steady Eddie for us, since week one, and he's performing at a high level. I know he appreciates being healthy and staying healthy and having a significant role. Obviously, we've got some other playmakers, the Xavier Worthies, the Josh Moores, that are going to be needed in this game to complement Jordan, to complement Bijan, and then the auxiliary plays of Roshan and Keelan. So all those guys kind of are skill players. Those guys are going to have a significant role come Saturday.
You had said certainly you want your guys to kind of take in the moment a little bit and kind of understand it and soak it up a little bit. How about for you, too? I mean, you walk it out there and you see half the stadium in crimson red and half of it in burnt orange and split right down the middle and all those kinds of things that go with this game.
Well, one thing about me, every time we show up to any game, I go walk the field for that very reason, that I appreciate the opportunities that I get. I get to be the head football coach at the University of Texas. It's an amazing honor. I do not take it lightly, and every Saturday I definitely appreciate it. I make sure our players do too. And this weekend will be no different. I'm going to take this thing in, but when this ball gets kicked off, we got to be ready to play.
We'll look forward to it. We hope to see you at the Cotton Bowl at the State Fair of Texas as well. This Saturday morning, the Texas Longhorns and the Oklahoma Sooners, the 117th edition of the AT&T Red River Rivalry. We'll start off the Red River Showdown at 10 a.m. on the network with the pregame and the kickoff at 11. For Coach Sark, I'm Craig Way. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week here at Pluckers on Longhorn Weekly.